Michele Granberg here. Welcome to Positive Energy, enlightening television for the evolving soul. On this show, our topic is mindfulness. Mindfulness is deliberately turning our attention to the present moment with compassion and without judgment. As a tool for managing stress, mindfulness benefits people of all ages. My guests, Trish Miele and Clarisa Romero, are bringing mindfulness into educational, business, and community settings. Take a deep breath and stay with us. Positive Energy starts right now. So I'm here with Trish Miele and Clarisa Romero. Welcome to Positive Energy.
Thank you for having us.
Real pleasure being here.
Very excited. Yes.
Perfect topic for positive energy, mindfulness, that we're going to talk about and dive a little bit into today. I know that you're as passionate as I am about mindfulness. It is absolutely a work of mine, passion of mine, study of mine, and love to offer it to people, and you do as well. So
Yes.
Let's just start by telling us, each of you, a little bit about yourselves, sort of as it relates to what you're doing now. Clarisa, start there.
Sure. Well, I have a background in early childhood education and psychology, so obviously mindfulness fit right in.
We look forward to hearing more. Thank you. And
Yeah.
Tricia, how about you?
So I have a background in elementary education, and I taught public school, 3rd grade, for 10 years. I left that looking for another area of education to pursue, and lo and behold, mindfulness in education appeared very quickly. So I trained with Mindful Schools. I did their very first year-long certification program for professionals, and I've been teaching for about 5 years in schools. I've been leading workshops for teachers. I have parent groups. I work with children and adults and teenagers privately. That's where we met, was through teaching at a school, a village charter school. And then also I bring it into businesses. So it's really limitless. It's for everybody, and it's just a matter of tweaking the language a little bit so it fits.
Many applications.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
We're only as limited as our creativity
This is true.
Absolutely.
Because I believe mindfulness as a universal human kind of practice is really, any setting, any person can benefit. But before we go more into the applications, let's make sure we and our audience are on the same page in terms of defining mindfulness. I know how I define it, but what are the elements? What makes mindfulness mindfulness? How do you define it? I'd like to hear from each of you how you define it, even though it's,
Well, I'll start by explaining the formal definition of mindfulness,
Yes.
which is to bring your attention to the present moment, but with intention, on purpose, and without judgment, without getting involved with your thoughts. So that's the formal definition of mindfulness.
A fullness of mind, a fullness of attention
Exactly.
to a single focus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Would you add to that, Trish?
Yeah, I like to include the words awareness, and also so awareness of the present moment through our senses, and also non-judgmentally, but including compassion and kindness.
Yes.
So interweaving that, because that is so important to the practice itself and its deepest roots, and we all need it. We all need some kindness for ourselves and extended to others, and compassion is. We're hardwired for it, so cultivating that through this practice is wonderful, and you can see it in people's faces as they, start to discover the warmth of it all.
Yeah. That's why we say it's something everyone can practice, because you're right. Who couldn't use a little kindness, and it is a way of extending kindness to ourselves first, so that we can also extend kindness to the world.
True.
So there's a lot to mindfulness, and there's mindfulness as a way of life, and there's mindfulness practices that help us to chart that way of being.
Yes.
So what's the relationship? There's a relationship between mindfulness and Buddhism, although the two are separate as well. Mindfulness can be practiced without Buddhism, but Buddhism can't be practiced without mindfulness. So put it in a little context for us, the relationship between those two, mindfulness and Buddhism.
I'll make a comment and then I'll let Trish expand. The type of mindfulness that I know we both practice is secular mindfulness.
Yes.
So there's the contemplative, obviously has its roots in thousands of years of a spiritual practice. But the kind of mindfulness that we bring to individuals and schools is completely retraining your brain to focus and think more clearly. It's completely secular. There's no spirituality attached to secular mindfulness.
Perfect way of defining it.
Yeah.
Contemplative versus secular.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you're leaving the Buddha out of it. You're leaving the
Yes.
dogma. There's no teaching. There's no philosophy. There
Yes.
doesn't even necessarily have to be spirituality, unless that's something somebody is interested in.
Exactly.
Then they can bring that into it. But
Absolutely.
they're independent of one
Yes.
another as well. Anything you'd like to add to that?
That is our focus, is the brain-based aspect, and that appeals to everybody. Even the little ones love to find out about what's going on inside of that head of theirs. And for adults, it answers a lot of questions about, so that's what happens when I'm stressed out, or so that's what happens when I'm really in the zone and I'm focused. So it gives it an anchor for a lot of people. And while it doesn't negate the beautiful background and thousands of years that have fueled it, it makes it more mainstream, and it makes it a lot more accessible for a lot more
Accessible
people.
and relevant,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
people can relate to it more. They don't have to confuse the two
Exactly.
together. So again, it feels like maybe this is something, no matter what religious background I have, this is something I can consider and to practice.
Yes.
Why do you think mindfulness is catching on more and more these days? It's almost, we hear it, it's mainstream, it's almost like a buzzword.
Yes.
There's like a million books, mindful this and mindful that, and
Everywhere
you
you
hear
go.
it everywhere you go. There's mindful everything. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think
Right.
that is a good thing, because obviously this is where our awareness is. But
Right.
do you have any thoughts on why during this particular juncture
Yeah.
in society that's happening? Any
Yes.
thoughts on that?
Our
Yeah.
fast-paced society, all the technology, it makes it so hard for you to be mindful, for you to be in the present
So we
moment, for
need
you
it
to
more
have
than ever.
awareness. We need
Yes.
it more than ever.
Yeah. And I think too, with all the devices and everything coming at us, and there really isn't any filtration system unless we shut something off or turn away. So it's giving people that pause, that place to whoa, let me just check in. What's going on with me right now? And, connecting the head and the body. What are the signals my body is giving me in instances like mindful eating? What is happening right now that I'm starting to experience increased heart rate, and I'm starting to get very stressed out, and I can feel the anger rising. So it doesn't stop those reactions, but it helps us become aware of them and create this little space, this little bit of pause, whether it's 2 or 3 breaths. And that is really enough for some people to kind of get back into their right mind, for lack of a better, And so I think people are thirsty for it. I think they're understanding that all the technology and all the distractedness is not healthy, and I think people are starting to
Seek another
another
way,
way.
or seek balance. And this is what happens
Yes.
when we tend to get out of balance. Our pendulum swings too far one way. Something inside of us wants that balance to return.
Constantly multitasking, and even though we're told
almost
that that's
normal.
how you
Right.
should
Right.
be, multitasking, that's not so constructive.
Right. And a lot of people end up with a lot of loose ends and feeling very dissatisfied, versus when we're actually able to focus on something, there's this real sense of complete satisfaction and contentment, just being able to absorb everything about that moment. And it can be something as simple as just watching a cloud go by. It doesn't have to be, there's lots of informal practices too.
Yeah, spontaneous,
Spontaneous.
really in the
Yes.
moment, mindfulness.
Exactly.
So let's talk about some of the benefits of mindfulness. I think we've mentioned a few, and I know that Trish, you were great at explaining in layman's terms a little bit the science, the brain science
Yeah.
behind it. There's so much evidence. They're doing so much research with mindfulness that there's a body of work out there that anybody could just look it up. But let's just talk a little bit. Trish, start with that. What's sort of the benefits and the science behind mindfulness?
So the benefits, what they're finding now through the scientific study is they're actually able to check on cortisol levels through saliva, pre and post practice. They're actually able to take functional MRIs of the brain and notice what the stressed brain looks like versus what a brain that's been practicing some mindfulness or some focused breathing or something just self-calming, and what parts of the brain are actually lighting up and what parts are not dormant but less lit up, for lack of a less technical term. Also the benefits, I mean, decreased blood pressure, increased immunity. They're actually finding there's an increase in immunity through people that are meditators. Also the telomeres, the cell life, you know, there's these little things on the end of all our cells that slowly degrade, and they're finding that this is actually reversible. And then the aspect of neuroplasticity. So we can change our brain. I mean,
change the wiring of our brain.
How
amazing
is that? And the thickening of the
we
cortical
can do it
regions.
ourselves.
Exactly.
Right.
Absolutely.
This is the idea
There's
behind
power
it.
there, empowerment.
So holistic, so natural.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the practices are simple. They're not necessarily easy.
Correct.
But they are simple.
Yes.
You know, but again, it definitely takes practice.
Yeah.
Anything else that you've noticed, Clarisa, about some of the benefits of mindfulness?
Yeah, absolutely. To add to what Trish was saying, having a clear, focused mind in the business sector in particular, it helps with interpersonal communication, the business culture.
And that's your specialty, is to bring mindfulness a little into business arenas.
In business
settings.
and also school settings.
And
so
settings.
the two.
Yeah. Likewise.
Yes.
You know, I mean, attention, focus, satisfaction, happiness, overall, they're now finding well-being is actually a skill, that within it is resiliency and outlook and other aspects of what we kind of take for granted, but it's actually needing to be taught more because people are maybe not getting it as much in community, because we are spending more time, you know, attached to devices, and that's a learned skill. And well-being is, of course, something we all hope for.
Relearn, something we've
exactly.
lost, but something we can learn.
We can bring it right back
as a skill. That's why it's taught, you know, in a classroom kind of setting. So all of these are great things on a day-to-day basis. So it's mindfulness is practical. Again, it's not something out of reach, up in the sky, woo-woo, you know, in that way. That's the day-to-day benefits. Stopping, practicing mindfulness, just being mindful, in addition to maybe meditation, mindfulness meditation practices, helps us with focus, as you said, concentration, being more present, being less stressed, and I think just enjoying life, because you're there in the moment that way.
That's right.
And you're more creative when you're actually calm. It's our default.
All that static.
Exactly.
So tell us about in-school settings specifically. How are you bringing mindfulness there? How accepting are they of it? How do the children respond? You know, what's happening in the schools with mindfulness? Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, I'll start, and I'm sure Trish
fine.
has a lot more to add. We actually just did a session at a school this morning, because it's so, I mean, it's needed in every aspect of our lives. But you know, a lot of times people don't realize how much stress children have, and one factor that we find is that, you know, children are always told, you have to focus, you have to listen, pay attention, but children are not taught how to pay attention. So it's amazing when we do our sessions and we tell the children, right, are you constantly being told, pay attention? But are you ever told how to pay attention? Or even when you want to pay attention, but what are the steps? So I know that that's like a big revelation. Oh, okay, I can do something to help myself pay attention. The same thing with the teachers, to help them understand that the children are not being distracted on purpose, but there are issues underlying. If someone's stressed and there's trauma, we have to help them prepare their brain for the learning and for the focus.
They're really backing up and giving children tools that they haven't necessarily been modeled for them.
Absolutely.
What do you experience with
that? And it's innate. So I see with the little ones, we keep it appropriate. So, you know, we're not sitting and doing 15 minutes of practice with kids that are young or even older kids. So we're keeping it an age-appropriate time, and we're helping them understand the different systems of ways of paying attention. So through listening, through breathing, through kindness, through what are our thoughts doing, what are some difficult emotions, movement, eating, walking. So we start to expose them to the very deep ways of accessing it for themselves throughout the day, and monitoring that that feels kind of weird right now. What are those are butterflies. Oh, I'm nervous. So giving them language to identify what's the human condition, what's happening right now.
You're normal, you're telling them, so they don't think they're strange or odd or broken or damaged. You're telling them having a lot of thoughts is normal, having uncomfortable emotions is normal, but here's a way of managing.
Right. So it's that self-regulation piece.
Yes.
Is
Self-monitoring,
huge
self-regulation,
for schools.
self-soothing.
Self-soothing, and then also bringing it to the teachers, because teachers that are plugged into a mindful way of being bring that into the classroom naturally through difficult transitions. Everybody coming back from lunch and recess, let's all take 5 mindful breaths. And everybody's settling in.
Right?
Everybody
Absolutely.
lands.
Everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And even with
in.
the young ones, we're doing the brain science.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously simplified, but we actually do teach them through a hand model of Dr. Dan Siegel. We used to hand model with the children and teach them the brain science so that they understand when they have an impulse or when they do something or say something they didn't mean, what was happening, so that they understand the next time maybe they can take that pause. Oh, that was my amygdala, that area of the brain where it's so reactive. Oh, okay.
They'll be able to
take a
really
deep
impress their
breath.
friends and their family too
love
when they say the
saying
word
it.
amygdala.
And they love to say amygdala. And the prefrontal cortex, so cute to hear them pronounce it.
Yeah. The
It's
PFC.
adorable to hear them.
And
It is adorable.
it is.
It
And
really
then we
is.
call it the downstairs brain and the upstairs brain, and the motherboard, the CEO, the boss
They
is
can
up
relate
here.
to it when you compare it to a computer.
Absolutely,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
And how-
that they can relate to that.
How our thoughts and distractedness are like pop-ups, and how we keep trying to, and mindfulness is a way of closing them.
Close that. X that out.
Exactly.
Mindfulness is
So, you got to make it relevant, and that's really important. And then also to the parents. So the parents, what's interesting is many times the kids bring it home. The parents are like, what is this? And, they'll report, well, my mom's amygdala was going nuts. So we all sat down and took a couple of breaths, So it's just, they
amazing.
really, the children can be the teachers too. How powerful is that?
This is our future.
Exactly.
These are the
Absolutely.
adults of our future. So if they're learning it now, they can really transform, the most fundamental settings, because they're going to bring that forward. And don't we wish we had those tools when we were children?
We tell them that all the time.
Yeah, we do.
Wish we knew
We
this
wish we had
You
this.
guys are so fortunate.
Yes.
That's right.
Tell them.
But there is a curriculum, and it's very doable, and it's meant to be tailored to the group, and flexible and fluid, just as mindfulness is, and also taking into account, some kids aren't comfortable closing their eyes, so we give them alternatives to that. Some children really have a difficult time self-regulating even to sit for even 30 seconds. So we do a little bit more movement, and then we slowly get them into a mindful body. So it's knowing who's in the room and being the instructors also of mindfulness, being present to what's showing up, what's there.
Beautiful, beautiful skills for life, right?
Exactly.
A way of being. Mindfulness is much
Yes.
more than just one little practice.
Oh, this is true.
In that way. So if kids can do it, adults can do it. Talk a little bit about how you recommend people start a mindfulness practice, a mindfulness meditation practice, a mindfulness practice in general. Where can they begin, and then we'll practice some.
Right, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So frequently I'll suggest someone start with some actual instruction, one-to-one or in a group, or do a training if there's one in the area, and it could be mindful-based stress reduction, which is MBSR, or it could be in a group, a parent group or an adult group, or also I work with people one-on-one. And usually we'll go through the brain science and kind of get the groundwork, the 101 part of mindfulness in, so that they can kind of get a sense of what is it for me, and also helping them connect relevantly, like, do you have a favorite hobby? Do you have a favorite sport? Do you have a favorite activity that you're just totally immersed in? Well, that is a mindful state. So you're basically already doing it. And it's just finding that space of, in different times throughout the day where it may not come as naturally, to start plugging it in. So I'd like, I always suggest they do that. And then there's so much available now online. I mean, there's so much. There's some really great apps. There's great talks by Jon Kabat-Zinn. There's great talks by Tara Brach, and it's just so the list goes on and on.
Getting started is finding the resources is not difficult. It's relatively easy to find the resources. Of course, the work or the challenge sort of is to keep up with it and to practice it as a discipline and to incorporate it into your life in that way.
And so creating those entry points. So
Yes.
helping them find places where they could plug it in, and working through, well, I could probably get up first thing in the morning and do some breathing, and letting them understand, again, the non-judgmental part. Explore it. Experiment. Be in a beginner's mind. Inquire. Like, what does this look like for me? Could it be when I'm sitting in the car at the stoplight, I take 3 mindful breaths and I notice what my hands are doing on the steering wheel? Could it be when I'm out and I'm taking the dog for a walk and I'm just watching my steps and listening to the bird song and whatever other noises or sounds are there? So really making it accessible, but that community aspect too can't be undersold. I think it's really important for someone to start with some sort of instruction so that they have someone to contact if they're having a difficult time, or to help them find resources and support. Yeah, support and community.
I agree with that, but I also find that I think that the individuals that I have been working with, they have to start, and I think most people are that way. They have to start slow. They want to have a formal practice, but I find that giving them the tips of how can you incorporate it through simple aspects of your 5 senses throughout the day, then they start biting, and then okay, yeah. During lunch, I was more mindful. I actually did this with my colleagues, a consultant with the Statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and soon I'm going to be unfolding a conscious business mindfulness program at the chamber. And so, because informally I've been helping them, so a lot of times during lunch, they're like, oh, look, I'm tasting this. I'm taking the time to actually chew the food and not swallow it and enjoy my meal, move away from my desk, or take a mindful breath before I continue the afternoon. Just little bits. Or in the morning, simply not picking up your phone, not letting that be the first thing you do, that's the first thing that you start your day by checking your emails, your task list, just grounding yourself, just waking up and be grateful it's a new day,
So
feel the day.
Any moment can become a mindful moment. It's really not about what you're doing. Again, it's about the mindset that you bring to it. So that's what I tell people too. Maybe it is just attending to one of your 5 senses. Just fully listen to any of the sounds or smell, or just look.
Absolutely.
Right? Or when you're washing a dish,
yes,
only wash the dish. Feel the dish. Feel the warm water.
Absolutely.
Feel the soap. Feel the movements. So let's demonstrate. Let's have you demonstrate that.
That'd
Give us a little mindful moment for us and for our audience, Trish.
Happy to. So this is a singing bowl, and I love to use the resonant sound kind of implement to signal us that we're going to take a moment and check into one thing or another, whether it's listening or breathing or whatever it is that we're working on in that particular practice. So today we're going to do some mindful breathing. Great. And it's really first noticing your breath and where is it moving in your body. So as simple as just being aware of that, because throughout the day we're not aware of our breath unless perhaps we're exercising and it's accelerated, or we're stressed out and we're feeling our heartbeat and we're feeling gulpy kind of air. So this is a great way of just starting in a very simple, accessible way, because the breath is always there. So it's always there. It's on board. No equipment necessary. So I just ask that people come to a posture of self-respect and dignity. It doesn't have to be ramrod straight, or it should be comfortable and sustainable and not creating any kind of discomfort. And we're going to do a short, just breathing practice. So I'll ring the bell, we'll listen to the whole tone, and then we'll just find that breath, that movement, the in and out. And frequently I'll ask them to place their hand there, because that's a really great way of reminding ourselves, where is that breath? What am I doing right now? And then noticing thoughts might come. Oh, going back to my breath. Oh, here's another thought.
So let's
come
do
back
that.
to my breath.
Let's do that.
Exactly. So you feel free to close your eyes if you're practicing this elsewhere, but I think we'll probably just avert our heads and listen to the whole sound of the bell. So now finding that spot on your body where the breath is moving, you can feel the in and out. This would be called anchored breathing. Maybe in your belly, maybe up by your chest, maybe by your nose. There isn't any right or wrong place. Just Just watching the in breath and the out breath. And in and out. You can even feel free to use those labels in your mind if that helps keep you focused. And now just take 3 more at your own pace. No hurry. And when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes and come back to the room.
Beautiful.
You felt it.
Yeah, absolutely. More
Focus.
mindful. So the
Absolutely.
experience, describe the experience of it is a feeling of settling, a feeling of more than relaxation, of clarity and groundedness, right? So that's
Alertness.
just a moment of that
Absolutely.
mindful breathing really brings that.
And yeah, I know Clarisa shares this when we do that first practice and everybody opens their eyes and we just see this shift instantly in that I'm here.
You can see it in their eyes. You can
Right
see it in their
away.
whole posture and their body, and you can kind of feel it too. And I think you can
Absolutely.
feel the
Yes,
energy.
absolutely.
So you have created together the Mindful Living Expo, the Mindful Living event, right? So
Yes.
we don't have too much time, but just say a little bit about that, and then just say how people can find out more.
Oh,
Absolutely. Well, I'll just briefly say that the mindful living events, we have several. They're meant to basically bring people together through different communities to experience mindfulness in different aspects, whether it's mindful parenting, conscious parenting, whether it's in education, whether it's at work, in mindful eating. So we'll have different practitioners and we'll be there as well, and the purpose is just to bring the community together to be able to experience it.
To
What does it
educate,
feel?
to
What is it?
experience.
Yeah, right. Because what best, as we know, the best way to really learn something is to experience it. So
Yes.
we can talk all day long, but when you sit and you take a couple of mindful breaths, you're like, oh wait, I could use this. And I have yet to find somebody who says, oh, I don't need that. Everybody's like, I need this. And you know who else needs this? They're always volunteering
Yes.
with other people. So we've had them for 2 years in New York City at Central Park. And we have our first in Newark, which is going to be August 26th from 12 to 3 at Branchbrook Park, which is the Forest Hills section of Newark. It's right by the tennis center there, so it's easy to find. And it's right by the light rail. And it's www.newarkmindfulliving.com is our website, so they can find more information about that there. And our sponsorship is from Horizon New Jersey Health, which we're very grateful for.
Yes.
And I forgot to share that my company name is To Be Mindful, and I'm the CEO and founder of that. And we're bringing programs everywhere, and schools and communities and organizations and companies and individuals. So it's our passion, absolutely.
Well, I wish you the
Absolutely.
best with that. It
Thank
certainly
you.
is needed, and it is important work that you are both doing in the world. So from my heart to yours, I mindfully express that we are very grateful that you're doing this work
thank
in
you.
the world.
And thank you for
Continue
having us
to do
on.
it.
Yes.
Yeah, we appreciate the time.
So
Yeah.
thank you, Trish, for
Absolutely.
being here. Thank you, Clarisa, for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Thank you, Michele.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Yep.
So it's time to wrap up with one final message. Happiness can only be found in the here and now. Thank you for watching. Join us next time right here on Positive Energy.